G'day, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody.
KJ, and here is Swali as well.
Hello.
We are here with another episode for you today about the upcoming election in Australia. There's a federal election coming up next weekend.
May 3rd?
Yes, I believe so.
It should be remembering those dates.
Should probably have fact-checked that before we said it out loud. Yes, right. So because of that, our word of the day is election. Let's see what election means. A word of the day. Right. A formal and organised choice by vote of a person for a political office or other position. So we're talking about the act or action of electing or the fact of being elected. Can you think of what you might have, well, what I might have found when I looked election up on the Urban Dictionary there, Swales?
I don't even want to think about it, honestly.
There's some good ones. This one is a lying contest between two or more rich and or powerful individuals.
Perfect.
Yep. We also have election, noun, deciding between the lesser of two evils, i.e. Skeletor or Krang.
Hey, man. Yeah, well done.
Election, a system where two people that represent the rich minority compete to see who can trick more people that they are actually going to do something in their interests.
It shows a lot of Urban Dictionary. Obviously, it's very popular with the younger generation or
Yes.
the mid-generation.
Oh, it seems like they don't have a lot of confidence in
Not a lot of faith in the politicians at all.
And that's probably fair given the state of the politics in this country anyway. Is there hope? Do we have any way to claw back to some semblance of what the Anzacs were fighting for when they were fighting for this country?
For our freedom.
Yes. So we're going to have a little look at some of the campaigning the two majors have been rabbiting on about in the last however many weeks. Topic 1 here, health. Labor have said in relation to the topic of health that they're going to bust out $8.5 billion into Medicare, 9 out of 10 visits bulk billed by the end of the decade. You'll notice a theme here with these policies that many of them are offering. They don't seem to be things that are like, you're going to get it now. It's usually by 2050 or starting next end of financial year. There's sort of this in the future. At some point in time, we will actually follow through with what we're saying.
A couple of terms later.
Yeah.
Should you vote us in again? Otherwise, we don't have to be accountable for it.
Yeah, those ones are great. There's another election before then. Maybe we'll change our minds. They're also going to, allegedly, do 50 new urgent care clinics. They want to support women's health with more Medicare rebates for women's contraceptives and menopause health assessments, expand endometriosis clinics. So, no, these sound like good things, I suppose.
Like great ideas, but...
Well, not sure where that money's coming from. Oh, wait, yes, we are. It's coming from us. Anyway, I did see a video recently of Albo, the Prime Minister, talking about Medicare. Well, he wasn't really even talking about it, actually. He was simply holding the card in his hand and openly weeping about how much he loves Medicare. So that was interesting. Right. It's a big selling point for him, obviously. The Liberal and Nationals, they said they will also match Labor's bulk billing promise, and they want to do a $400 million GP training plan for 2,000 new GPs to be trained yearly and additional nurses, reduce the PBS listed medication prices, and spend $5 million on identifying gaps in women's health care. So that's their health stance. Cost of living. Have you heard about any of the cost of living? I know you heard about the power bill one. Yes.
Go on then.
Well, it was Labor. That's one of those in the future kind of ones. You know, they were like
another one. 10 years time.
We'll give you $150 back on your power bills in 2 installments, starting from July next year, and then you'll get that again, that other half, the following 12 months later. And then there was some kind of a small tax break that was supposed to be saving you about $5 a week from July 2026. So again, from next year.
Yep.
And then the following year, you should save about $10 a week from this tax break. So that's lovely. Well done.
And how much of their policies and promises, should they come to fruition, cost us?
That one's estimated at a cost of $20 billion.
Oh, that's a little bit. It's not much.
Yeah. Just a couple
That'll
of,
add to our trillions of debt.
yeah, love it, love it. The coalition relating to the cost of living, they have been going on about the 25 cent per litre reduction on fuel costs for 12 months, which works out to be about $14 a week in savings for, the average car, the average household. And also a one-off tax offset of up to $1,200 for taxpayers that are under 144K annually.
Why only 12 months? That's what sort of...
Well,
so we'll do it. They're just buying votes.
Yeah, well, that was a
Throwing
different
out something
one.
out there just to, you guys want... You've been complaining about the cost of fuel. You don't like the cost of fuel. So we'll buy your votes for 12 months should you elect us. You'll pay for it eventually because it's going to come out of your taxes, and we'll just stop maintaining roads or doing something else. So, we'll rob from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, jinx.
But you'll get 14 cents, was it?
It's 25 cent per litre reduction on fuel costs for 12 months. So I do like that this one is actually saying like we're going to do it now as opposed to the other ones that are in the future.
Do is drop a bit of excise off the fuel.
Yes.
For 12 months.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and we'll give it an extra 25% on top of the one that we just saved. Yeah.
Maybe.
Bring it back at $2 a litre.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
The coalition said they would also offer that $150 power rebate just to match Labor. And this was all about $18.75 billion in costs, so pretty standard on their cost of living policies that they would like to implement. They're both spending about the same amount of money there. To do with housing, Labor have pledged that they're going to put $10 billion to build 100,000 homes for first home buyers. So $10 billion divided by 100,000 is saying that each house is going to cost $100,000 to build, which I just didn't think made any sense.
What are they building them on?
Maybe they're like tiny homes or something. I don't know, but that was a bit weird.
Even a tiny home will cost you more than that to build.
Well, I don't know where you're putting them either. Like, what land is this going on?
They're talking about high-rise developments or
possibly
units or.
Yeah, I suppose they still count as homes, don't they? They are a dwelling, but anyway. Also to do with housing under Labor, they're saying they'll do these 5% deposits for new homeowners. They want to...
They'll give them 5% deposit?
They're going to let them apply for the loan with only 5% towards...
Okay, there's been government schemes like that going around for a long time.
Yeah.
With
kind of comes and goes, doesn't it?
Low income, get into the market, housing schemes.
And there's also the one where sort of the government own a portion of your property, sharing it together.
Yeah.
There's a few
of those. Shared equity.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah. And they also said they were going to ban foreign investors and temporary residents from purchasing existing homes in Oz for 2 years. Liberals said they would do that as well, the coalition. Libs and Nats said that first home buyers can deduct the interest on their mortgage from their taxes for 5 years, which, according to the ABC article that I read there, on a mortgage of up to $650,000, you'd apparently be saving up to $55K over that 5-year period of time, which would probably sound quite appealing to a lot of young people trying to enter the housing market. So that's a good little fish on the hook there.
Yeah, just another buy of a vote.
Yeah, well, yes. Now, if you're worried about the climate, Labor have said that 82% of Australian energy will be powered by renewables by the end of, not next week, the decade. We got time to work towards this.
They've already
Sorry.
They've already come backwards on their statements like that before.
Yeah.
By the end of 2025, I think they were talking about with the car industry and such forth. And
well, they reckon they'll have emissions 43% lower than the emissions of 2005 by the year 2030. So that's a bit of a mission there for them. The coalition, on the other hand, are talking about building 7 nuclear power plants in regional Australia, with the first to be operational about 10 years from now. And they were saying that they would like to scrap the penalties relating to vehicle emissions in lieu of that, pushing the electric vehicles and climate change, all of that kind of jazz.
When they were going for net zero, we've all heard that throw around a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that was pushed for. We should be at net zero in the foreseeable future.
Mm.
But we're nowhere near that, and we're
No.
not. And it's not possible.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
No. And I think they're starting to realise that their claims that they made in the election promises gone past, but they can't keep to them.
I don't think they're starting to realise that. I think
they
they're
knew it at the
fully
start,
aware of
yeah.
it when they make the
Yes,
statement.
yes.
That's the thing. Like
That's
they
right.
just throw out what they think will get them into power so they can sneak through the other policies that they're more actually concerned about.
Mm.
These are just the things on the outside that the mainstream media ask them about. Tell me what you're going to do about the cost of living crisis. So they throw out some statement about it. But what about all the other little nitty-gritty things that are going along underneath that?
I think there's a lot of big ideas, a lot of good ideas that people throw out there, and they don't always come to be. But that's where you do your due diligence first, investigate it, and if you're going to promise something, you follow through, or at least make an effort to follow through.
And that's why we've got these definitions of election with being people perceiving it that, it's two evils and which is the lesser of them.
Yes, that's right,
It's
yeah.
horrendous. It shouldn't be like that. You should be able to...
It doesn't have to always be the two evils.
No, it doesn't. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Just a couple more things that the two majors have been carrying on about. Childcare. Labor said that they were going to spend $1 billion on building and expanding 160 childcare centres that would be like near state schools, basically, and they would be government owned. On the point of migration, the coalition want to, quote, rebalance Oz migration by reducing intake of permanent migrants and refugee and humanitarian places. And they did also say that they were pro the deportation of non-citizen criminals, which just seems to make sense to me. But yes, on the point of law and order, Labor had a calling card there of they were interested in promoting mandatory minimum jail for acts of terror. I wondered why they even bothered to put it on there if it's mandatory minimum. Like, why are we saying you're going to get, anyway.
Minimum sentencing, like a judge can't make his
we'll give
own
him
preferential opinion of, we'll just do this. This is the minimum that they're going to get.
Well, I'm a bit more cynical. I kind of read that more like they're going to give him a slap on the wrist. See, we did something about it. We don't support terror. They were in trouble. We fined them. Cool. Thanks for that. Thanks so much. Anyway, so many policies, promises, and there's all this back and forth and to and froing, and they basically on the outside, to us, they look like they're just exactly the same. They don't appear to be more reliable or more trustworthy than one another, and they don't want to talk about the deeper issues that people like us are more concerned about.
There's a lot of small things, or they might seem like big things to people. When you look at the grand scheme of things, and you look at the way that society's slowly dissolving, and the moral standing that used to be there is disintegrating to nothing, and they're the more important issues, and how we're going to get back to Australia as it used to be.
That's right. So we're talking about things like free speech, parental rights, or the right to educate your children in a faith-based school. These things are all being taken, or people are trying to take these rights from you. This is not okay. We have to be talking about this and fighting for it. If you're interested in parties that are wanting you to have those rights, then you're probably looking at the minors, like we've got a few here: One Nation, Trumpet of Patriots, the People First Party, Australian Christians, the Great Australian Party, and like the Libertarian Party. On the Australian Christian Lobby website, there's a really cool one-page downloadable party policy analysis table, which on the website it says that this table shows how political parties align with Christian values on key federal issues. Using ACL's scoring rubric, parties were assessed from 0 being no alignment to 10 strong alignment on each issue based on their responses. So there's like a side-by-side comparison offering a clear overview to help you make an informed, values-based decision this election. So, for example, I had a little look at this, and there was on the issue of parental rights. Coalition's and Green's answer to the questions pertaining to this important topic, they scored 0 out of 10 as far as their alignment with the Christian perspective on parental rights, which is a bit scary. Well, those minor parties that we just mentioned, they all scored a 10, right? So they think you should have parental rights, which I tend to agree. The other minor party that was mentioned in that table is the legalised cannabis party, who scored a 5 out of 10 on this topic, which is still higher than the score of 2 that the Labor Party got for their answer.
What about the Liberal Party in that sort of manner? Because Liberal and Labor, I mean, I've seen it many times. It's just a blended sort of situation. They both sit centre left, centre right, so it's not really.
In this table, Libs and Nats are written as coalition, and they scored 0 out of 10.
Wow.
Coalition and the Greens both scored 0 on parental rights. So this is a
the
really
Cannabis
useful
Party scored higher than our two major parties.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a really useful tool to be a bit more informed about what each of these parties stand for morally. So you get a picture of what's underneath the surface, because it's not just about all this smoke and mirrors and the topics that they intentionally speak to mainstream media about. There's other things going on. It's not just cost of living and tax cuts. We've got deeper moral issues and implications here that need to be discussed.
And it doesn't have, like you were saying just before, it doesn't have to be the two-party system. And I think a lot of people have got in the mindset that it is that way. I mean, even I was in the belief that they still gave preferential votes. The two major parties still preference their the preferences, and they allocated their preferences to other parties. It's not that way anymore. There's a good video on that, on actually how the preferential system works.
Yeah. The Topher Field on YouTube. He's got really good videos. Yeah. About the preferential system and how you can shake up that current two-party preferred vibe that a lot of people have got in their mind, that you feel trapped, like you feel really which is the lesser of the two evil. What am I going to do here? Who is the least terrifying? But that doesn't have to be the case. So I would encourage you to look up Topher Field and watch that, how to understand the preferential voting system and make sure that your vote actually has an impact towards rebuilding the Australia we need.
Important as well. I mean, God's in charge of the prince and principalities and those that govern our country and govern us. But we also have to be mindful of who we put our vote in and how we give that, and maybe spend some time thinking about it. That's our responsibility, is to really make sure that our vote counts. Spend some time in prayer, make sure that we are making the right choices or making the choices that are heart-led. And that's probably one of the most important decisions you can make. Yeah,
definitely. Turning Point Australia also has electorate-specific downloadable how-to-vote cards. So you can try to achieve a result promoting the minors. In that way, we'll hopefully end up with a more balanced team of politicians in charge across your House of Reps and your Senate, and not just majority of these two majors sitting there and making all the decisions and backing each other on their weirdo policies. We need a more balanced group of representatives
whichever way you vote, whether you're voting on the left side of politics or you're voting on the right. And we're not aligned with any particular party, but we're conservative based on our approach. So for us, we want to have that voice heard in the parliament.
Yeah.
And even if we don't get across the line and have the two major parties upset, at least you've got a voice in there that's standing up and talking for your views, that
for the average Aussie,
like the policies that we disagree with. Should we get a Liberal government, and they'll still have policies we don't disagree with because they're sitting not so conservative, they're sort of centre. And the same with the Labor, there'll be other policies that you don't agree with. At least you've got a voice in there to speak up for you, and it's more of a diverse government.
Imagine on that topic of parental rights, if they're all sitting in there talking about it, and we've just seen that they're not so fussed about their parental rights, leaning towards the Christian perspective on what parental rights ought to be. If that's all that's in the room are those kinds of minds and those sorts of voices, there won't be any discourse about there being other ways. It just gets stamped down, and that's it. It's done. The end. We need that balance to really have good change. So I would encourage you to definitely check out Topher Field's video, and check out that Turning Point Australia website as well for those downloadable cards if you're not sure. And there's lots of resources out there from some very clever people. Right. Enough of that.
Right.
Memory lane time.
Oh,
A little bit of vintage culture appreciation, and that today is the Game Boy.
the Game Boy. I had the Game Boy.
Yes.
Did you have the Game Boy?
I had one later than the one that you had, and I had gotten it from my older sister when she kind of grew out of it. So I certainly didn't have an original one, but I believe that you did.
I did have the big brick one.
Yeah, the big grey one.
The big grey one.
And do you remember what games you
Tetris.
were?
Tetris was the first thing it came with. It came out of the box with Tetris.
Tetris is still king. I mean, really.
And I think that's what made
Can't go
Game
wrong.
Boy was that it had Tetris on it. Because everyone had Tetris. I mean, when it first came out, that was you got that and the game.
Well, the one that I had was a little bit more advanced than that. Time had gone on, and Game Boy had also made their console. I guess it's a console, a handheld
It's a
console.
handheld console.
Yeah. They'd made them smaller, and they'd also made them brightly coloured on the
Oh,
outside.
you had one of the colour game.
Well, yes, except it was colour and see-through, so it was like a green
Yeah.
see-through.
You can see all the little boards
You could see the
inside
little
of it.
components inside
Yes.
of it. It was really cool.
They were awesome.
And the game that I had the Tetris as well, of course. You've got to have Tetris. But I had this other one called Odd World Adventures,
Yep.
which I could never complete.
The little alien guy.
Yes.
Yep.
And at some point, I also had grown out of it, and it was handed down to a couple of my younger cousins when I was hanging out with them, and so they got to have their Game Boy time. And then it went to their younger siblings, and not sure where it is now, but it made the rounds. They were pretty hardy, like they'd last a long
You
time.
could drop them and they'd still keep going.
They bounce.
Yeah, they bounce. Game Boy, I remember that, and you had the big one, and then they came out with the light version, smaller versions.
Yeah.
And I remember the clear case now that you mentioned it,
Yeah.
and the different colours.
I think
and then
they were
actually
like
came
clear
out
see-through
with
first.
a colour one with a coloured screen in it as well.
Yes.
And I think around about that time is when Pokemon came out on Game Boy.
When they
It
had
was
the
released in
coloured
Japan
screen.
first, and I think it was 1996, somewhere around there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it was the first two games. There. But I mean, Mario
Mario was good.
Mario's
Mario's
Brothers,
still
you
good.
just can't. You're still good, yes.
Yes, it's one of those games that holds its value even for, like, if you go into the game store now and you want to buy a second-hand one or a new copy of, let's say, Mario Kart,
Yeah,
it's still worth today about the same as what you would have paid for it when 10 years ago.
yeah.
It just, they're really well done. They're very entertaining games in there.
Speaking of cost, can you remember how much Game Boys cost back then?
I don't remember, no, because
think
I
that-
didn't buy it, so.
I saved up pocket money after pocket
Mm-hmm.
money, birthday money after birthday money, Christmas money after Christmas money
Yeah.
to buy one when I bought it, and I think it was close to $100
Wow.
back then,
Yeah.
and that was a lot
That
of
was
money.
like
back then.
1,000 years ago.
So it was like yes, it was like 1,000 years ago. But I suppose in comparison, you buy a PlayStation now and it'll cost you, $1,300 or something
I
like that
guess,
for a
yeah.
PlayStation now. But
Well, that's inflation, isn't it?
But
But you say 1989? Was it when the
1989 was when they were
The first ones
released.
came out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
right.
that's when it was. But
So
I don't think I
$100
bought
in 1989
mine-
is
I
a
don't think
lot.
I bought mine in 1989.
Yeah, okay.
Might have been. I can't remember. It's that long ago now.
Mm. But yes,
But,
they were awesome. If
but-
you had one too, tell us all about it, what your favourite game was. If you've still got one, let us know in the comments.
So I got into a bit of loot when I was looking at, oh yeah, Game Boys, I remember
You
them.
went down a rabbit hole searching
did,
about
I
Game
did,
Boys. What
I
did you
did.
find?
And I thought that that was definitely the first handheld console, the Game Boy. But because I remembered, Nintendo used to have one before, what was it,
The flippy
Game
ones.
and Watch, I think it was called, where they
yeah.
flip them open
Yeah, I think
and you get like Donkey
I think
Kong.
we could talk about
or-
them in a completely different episode
Yeah.
because there's so many cool things
Yeah.
about those. They were amazing.
But I thought, oh, well, that was the first console. But no, the first console,
Mm-hmm.
just from a little Google search, so it's always reliable.
Yeah, good old Googleizer.
It's actually on Wikipedia too, so it's even more reliable.
Oh, great.
But the first handheld console was made by Mattel in 1976.
Wow.
So,
13 years before we're seeing the Nintendo Game Boy, there's already something else out on
but
the
the
market.
first successful commercially handheld console was Merlin in 1978, which sold more than 5 million units.
And was that still Mattel that did the Merlin? Or was it
Milton Bradley?
Milton Bradley did Merlin, right?
Changed the
5
cartridges in
million
Milton Bradley
units.
Microvision in 1979.
5 million units in 1979. Does it have the price there by any chance? That would be
No.
interesting to see what it cost in the, because you said the other one, early 90s was about $100, and this is the end of the 70s. I wonder what it cost.
It would have been expensive, I'm sure. I didn't get that far deep into it. I just sort of read a few bits and pieces. Oh, yeah,
You
that's
poked your head in the
interesting. I thought-
rabbit hole and then you
I was like,
hopped
"Nah,
back out.
get
again."
away from here.
You don't want to get
But
stuck
I think
there
that was
forever.
Nintendo's probably greatest leap into the console market was that
Yeah.
Game Boy, and then it just kept growing and growing.
Yeah,
and
they're
growing.
still going, and what they make good stuff. Obviously, they know what to do. They've got a good brand. Right. Well, that was fun, as it always is. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes,
Don't
thank
forget to go and have a look at those websites and get out there and vote. And
Yeah, don't forget to vote. Make sure it counts.
your voice, it matters. It does matter what you think. Don't feel like you're locked in a corner and you don't have the right to fight for what it is that is important to you. Get out there and make a difference, just even with your vote. So check those things out. Catch you next time, everybody. Until then,
Until then,
God
goodbye.
bless.
Take care.
Peace out.
This content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. We are not Nintendo reps, financial advisors, pastors, or politicians. You are not more likely to suck less or try harder having listened to these shenanigans.